Hello and welcome to At Home Among Strangers. My name is Bred Brennemman. I've lived in Central Asia for 28 years, in Bishkek for 11, and I host the show where we have our ambassadors and other foreigners come and share about their lives in Kyrgyzstan. Today with me in the studio is the ambassador of France, Fran Delous. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Brad.
First question is, did I pronounce your name correctly?
Absolutely correctly. Congratulations, Brad.
Thank you.
I know it's not easy for English speakers.
It's not easy because there's letters in French which we don't pronounce. But anyway, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. I know we met some months ago, and with the pandemic and everything, it's taken a while. So I appreciate you taking the time to join us today.
The pleasure and honor are for me.
Thank you. First question, which I ask everybody, is where are you from?
Well, I'm typically French because, believe it or not, I'm from Paris, the capital.
Okay, that's your predecessor was not from Paris, so it's important to know that's a big country, and I've been to Paris. It's amazing.
Yes, we are 67 million French, and Paris, with the suburb, is 10 million people. Paris itself, the city, is 2 million inhabitants.
The central city, so it's 1.5. The Paris. What do you call it? Not the region, but the Paris, Greater Paris in English.
The Greater Paris is 10 million.
It's 1.5 Kyrgyzstans.
Correct. And not to mention GDP, it's much more than 1.5
yes,
GDP of Kyrgyzstan.
Yes. Second question which I'd like to ask is, what languages do you speak? Now, obviously, 2 languages, and how many? Because you have 2, you have English and French.
Native French. I learned English starting when I was 8, when my parents moved to London for 4 years. And then, because of my diplomatic career, I did learn a bit of foreign languages. Тогда я чуть-чуть на русском языке говорю. I speak a bit of Russian. Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. I speak a bit of German. It was my second language at school. But German is very difficult for the French to learn. Unfortunately, I've lost most of it. I would need probably to be in Germany to take it back again. Se vorbesc puțin la limbă românesc. I speak a bit of Romanian language because I've served 4 years in Bucharest. Mówię trochę po polsku. I speak a bit of Polish, but the Russian language is chasing my Polish. I was posted 4 years to Warsaw, and my wife used to be Polish. I had quite a good level of Polish, but my Russian has chased it away, and I missed practicing Polish language. So it's like the German. I would need to be probably in Warsaw again to take it back.
So you have 2 languages that you know fluently, and then 4 or 5 more.
4 are as minors.
As minors,
which would need more practicing.
And your Russian, I presume, is improving quite a bit.
Надеюсь, что можно сказать, что с временем я лучше говорю и понимаю и читаю на русском языке. Yes,
getting better and better.
I think it's getting better thanks to Central Asia.
Yes, Central Asia. So, when was your first time actually coming to the countries of Central Asia?
Well, the first time was end of September 2012, so that's 9 years ago, when I made a 3 days mission to Dushanbe, Tajikistan. For 1 year already, I had been posted in Paris as head of the division for Central Asia and Southern Caucasus, which means, by the way, dear Brad, that I've been dealing with Central Asia now for already 10 years. I'm in my 11th year of dealing with Central Asia, but my first physical visit to the region was in Dushanbe, end of September 2012.
And after that, you were posted in Ashgabat.
I was, after 5 years as head of division in the French Ministry of Foreign Affairs, dealing with the region. Yes, I was appointed as ambassador to Turkmenistan starting October 2016 and until end of September 2020, so for 4 years. Correct, and then I
moved to here.
Well, I spent a month in Paris. I was blocked because I did not get my accreditation as ambassador to Kyrgyzstan because the previous administration of Kyrgyzstan was not able in more than 2 months to issue me my accreditation. And I was so sad having left Ashgabat end of September 2020 to miss the events of October 2020. I was sitting in France waiting to get my accreditation.
Well, we had a change in the whole country at that time. So,
and I arrived in Bishkek I remember exactly the day, on Monday 26th of October last year, in the morning with a Turkish Airlines flight.
So exactly 1 year and a little bit ago.
Absolutely.
And was that your first time to visit Kyrgyzstan?
Yes. You know, I think sometimes the destiny is funny. During my 5 years as head of division for Central Asia and Southern Caucasus, out of the 8 countries I was following, there were 2 only which I did not visit during these 5 years, which were Turkmenistan and Kyrgyzstan. And the irony is I've been appointed ambassador to Turkmenistan and then to Kyrgyzstan, like the French presidents would be thinking he should definitely go and know these countries.
Very, very interesting. What have been your, now you've been here a year, but what have been your impressions? Maybe in particular, you have such experience with all the countries. What are maybe the unique attributes of the Kyrgyz Republic that you have noticed?
I still think it is not a cliche to say that Kyrgyzstan distinguishes itself in the region by the level of public freedoms, civil freedoms, the freedom of internet, the freedom of information, of gathering, the attachment of the people to their individual rights. There is this atmosphere of freedom in Kyrgyzstan, which I especially appreciate because the French, as you know, we are rather rebellious people. We like to complain against the state, which we make responsible for everything which goes wrong in our life, the government and the state. And this, I think, are common features with the Kyrgyz. So I really like this atmosphere of both freedom consciousness and rebelliousness of the Kyrgyz. I think these are common features with the French.
And I think the very fact that I, as a foreigner, can host an interview show is an example of the freedom that we have.
Absolutely, Brad.
And I also constantly am reminding my friends, citizens of the Kyrgyz Republic, of this exact truth, that there is much freedom, freedom of movement. You know, we can just get in our car and drive somewhere, and I think the younger generation has forgotten, because they were not alive to remember what it was like 30, 35
Absolutely.
Years ago, and the level of freedom, especially now, is incredible, to be honest.
Absolutely.
It's wonderful. So, tell us a little bit about your background, besides what we've already heard, but, you know, education, and then how did you decide to, and then enter into the Foreign Service of France?
I am a bit of a caricature, to put things bluntly, because I am the son of a diplomat. Although my father was an economic diplomat, he was working for the Ministry of Economy and Finance. But you know, Brad, when I was 6 months old, I was already expatriated to India. And we even took a boat, we took a steamer to join Bombay, and then took the train to New Delhi from France. Because at the time, wow, you could not only fly, you could even take a steamer to take your job. And I was the third of the 6 children of my parents. My brother after me was born in Delhi during this stay from December 65, until July 69. But then, and my elder brother, I have also to confess, is also a career French diplomat. He served as ambassador in Zimbabwe and Burundi, and he's currently serving as head of EU delegation to Liberia. 2 of my other brothers were expatriated, but in the private sector, because, you know, Brad, some people should be paying taxes to pay the salaries of civil servants like my brother and me. It's a joke, of course, but somewhere it's true. You know, out of the 6 children, 3 of us are civil servants. My sister, my only sister, is a teacher, and the 3 other boys, the 3 other brothers, are working in the private enterprise.
Yeah, very interesting.
My education, as you understand, I've been living abroad most of my life. I'm already 56 years old, and the majority of my years on the planet were spent abroad, not in France. I came back to Paris when I was age 17 to do my final year of high school, pass what we call in France the baccalaureate, which is the diploma you should pass at the end of high school, and then start my higher education. And then, how to put it? I took my time. I did rather long courses of higher education because I graduated from not less than 3 higher education French rather reputed establishments, which are École Normale Supérieure, Institut d'études politiques de Paris, and École nationale d'administration. So all in all, I started to work when I was going to turn 28 years old. To tell you, my studies lasted nearly 10 years. They were long because they were also diverse. I started in the, I would say, literary field with a specialty as a historian. So not only am I a historian from École Normale Supérieure with the title of Normalien, I also studied history in the Sorbonne University. At the time it was called Paris 4, Paris 4 faculty, university. And I have a plus 5 year, baccalaureate plus 5, so that would be the equivalent of master today, degree in history, contemporary French history. But I think already when I was 18, I finished high school, I knew I wanted to be a diplomat. I was fascinated and interested by the career, what we call la carrière. But unlike my father, I wanted to go for political diplomacy and not economic. So that's why I did Sciences Po and École nationale d'administration. That was to become a diplomat and join the French Foreign Affairs Ministry at the end of École nationale d'administration, which eventually I succeeded to do. So Sciences Politiques, you can imagine, as the name shows, it was mostly about international relations, political science, public law, and then it helped me to prepare this prestigious school, higher school under the Prime Minister called École nationale d'administration, and I graduated ENA to become a diplomat.
And is the process, after all the education, I think the Soviet system is people go to special diplomatic colleges, universities and training, academy, and then they become a diplomat. Usually in the West it's different. You have your education, then there's an application process, exams, interviews. Can you describe the process, the French process to join the diplomatic service?
Well, there are two ways. The one I chose was through École nationale d'administration, and at the end of ENA we are about 100 graduated alumni, and we have to choose between about 110 jobs in the French civil service, which are offered to us, and we choose in the order of our final exams. So the one who finished first of his promotion has the choice between 110 jobs, and then each and every
getting smaller.
Yeah, and the last one will have 10 jobs to choose between. And I took foreign affairs, and it was my wish from the beginning. So I was so happy, that I succeeded. That's the first way of joining the foreign affairs, and the second way is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of France has direct, what we call concours, exams, to recruit people with special skills, and the most important skill is foreign languages, and especially rare foreign languages, because English or German are not enough. You should master, and with a very high level, of skill, including the civilization, the history of the country, and not only the language, something like, I don't know, Chinese. I have a colleague who was recruited through Mongolian language. Russian language, obviously, is a language of selection also, which allows to become a French diplomat. So
theoretically, anybody, if they studied and became experts in these fields, they could go through this process.
You should add to the language and the civilization of which goes with the language, a very broad general culture, culture générale, we say in French, in political science and international relations.
And then did you, since you started 11 years ago with the Central Asia and Caucasus, was that something that you were pursuing to study because you had a special interest in this part of the world, or you were sort of just by the ministry pushed in that direction?
Yes, you are smart, because in fact you are right, it's the second answer which is correct. I had been centered in the first half of my career between when I joined the MFA in 1993 and 2011. I had been concentrating on what you might call Central and Europe and Eastern Europe. I had been appointed I had been serving, in Poland, in Ukraine, in Romania. I had been desk officer for EU enlargement to Central Europe in Paris in the French MFA. So 2011, coming back from the Netherlands, 3 years in The Hague, it was really a kind of change in my career, going further east when taking this job of head of division for Southern Caucasus and Central Asia. It was further to the east than I had ever been looking and working on. and it was very interesting. I think the fact I had served in Ukraine for 4 years and a half probably made me want to look further east. But yes, it was a discovery, you know. It was something unexpected. It was an opportunity I seized, applying for the job of head of division for these two regions. And you know what? During my 5 years, which was a rather long term in Paris on these eastern part and western part of the Caspian Sea, I think I could really, very frankly say, I fell in love with the geopolitics, the culture, the people, even the French national interest in the region, the European broader interest in both regions. They're a bit different, you know. We are talking of two sub-regions which are a bit different. One thing was sure, Brad, at the end of my 5 years, I certainly wanted to become, if possible, ambassador of France in one of the 8 countries, whether west or east of the Caspian Sea, but to pursue. And, you know, I had been investing myself professionally quite a lot during these 5 years, you can imagine, trying to master the stakes, trying to master the French relations and the broader aspect of them with each and every of the 8 countries. It had been an intellectual and personal investment, you know. And I was so happy and proud, obviously, to be appointed, yes, to Ashgabat, Turkmenistan by President Hollande in 2016.
It's a not just long explanation, but for me, very fascinating. The whole, you know, the trajectory, the process. I think for many people who might just see an ambassador or someone like myself, and I think that this just happens. And actually, behind all of us, there is many years of study, of preparation in our business. Many people say, well, just you're lucky that you did this, and I think, well, no, actually I spent 20 years, you know, preparing, planning, doing other jobs, learning, studying. In what is many times, I think many of the things you studied can seem like, what's the connection to what you're doing now? But I believe you could affirm that all of those studies play into the person you are today and the ability to be effective in a job decades later.
I would like to comment on this, Brad. To this day, and I cross my fingers it will be so until the end of my career, each and every job I've taken in the French Foreign Affairs Service since 1993, so I'm at 28 years plus of work for the French MFA. Each and every of the jobs, I applied for them. None of them came from the sky. None of them was like a second chance because I had been refused what I wanted. I was a candidate to each and every of these jobs, so I'm rather a satisfied person to this day. I'm a happy and I would say privileged person to this day.
Can we pivot to your work here in Kyrgyzstan? You've been here over a year. What can you comment on maybe some of the goals or ambitions of the French embassy? Also, I guess in the context of you have the EU, but then specifically you already mentioned France itself. What would you like to be able to accomplish in your remaining time in the Kyrgyz Republic? My
job is to develop as much as possible French-Kyrgyz relations in all the fields, which goes from the political dialogue to the cultural cooperation, going through, obviously, and that's so important, it's so basic, it's so foundation for any other aspect of the relationship, the economic and trade relationship. So yes, I'm trying to be active on all these matters. I have to point out that the French embassy in Kyrgyzstan is probably one of the smallest bilateral embassies in Bishkek. There are about 35 bilateral embassies in Bishkek, and I have to admit the French embassy is very small. We are only 2 French expatriates with 4 local recruits, including the driver of the embassy. So you see how small the staff is. What does this imply? It means we have to be very polyvalent, very proactive. We have to try to show the French flag as much as possible in all the fields I was mentioning. Obviously, this means being very versatile, being very polyvalent, and trying to be on every domain, but with the limits of a small team with nearly no financial means, because I have no cooperation funds, for instance, unlike other embassies like the German, the British, or the Swiss.
Like
embassies.
Representation funds to hold events. I know every year there's usually in July, of course, the francophone or the events because not just France has French as a language.
Absolutely.
So with Switzerland.
If I may make a small correction, Francophonie we celebrate in March, and
March,
you were mentioning July because of the French Bastille Day.
But that's usually when here they've had a week of celebrations. So because of the pandemic, that hasn't happened for 2 years. Hopefully we'll start again.
2 years without National Day events on 14th of July. Unfortunately, no reception. As for Francophonie, we did a small online week of Francophonie this year, unlike last year where everything had to be cancelled because of the pandemics. This year we did a small online Francophonie week with the help and support of our Swiss friends, also of the support of the European Union delegation. Small is beautiful. Of course, we prefer to make it bigger, but at least symbolically, we were able to do a few events like a song contest. Also, we had some quiz. About French language. We had 2 webinars to present French studies in France and studies more broadly in the European Union. These kind of things were organized last March.
Well, hopefully next year things will continue to improve and we can enjoy those events.
Obviously, vaccination against COVID will be helping, and I can only encourage our Kyrgyz friends to vaccinate themselves.
Yes, actually, we've been talking about that on the show. That now, even recently, they're approved the booster shot. For myself, I've had 3 shots. I know that it gives me a lot more confidence. Of course, you can still get sick, but the chance of having a serious illness is much lower. And of course, I just encourage, like you, everybody to go and get vaccinated so we can more quickly get back to normal and have social and cultural events. So, well, thank you very much for coming to the show. I appreciate it, and you will be here for a few more years. And I'm sure, because I know you're already very active, that you're meeting a lot of people, so people in the street can come and talk to you, say hi, and get to know the ambassador of France.
I'm here to support, dear Brad, all the aspects of French-Kyrgyz relationship, and my door is always open to our Kyrgyz friends who have projects in this framework.
Thank you so much, and again, we'll shake your hand. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Bradley. Thank you very much for hosting me. It was a pleasure and an honor.
You've been watching At Home Among Strangers with Brad Brennemman. Today with me in the studio has been the ambassador of France, Framsois Delaaus. Thank you so much for being with us here, and I look forward to being back with you in the studio soon. Bye-bye.